Suppose we accept hayat al-Barzakhi and the idea that the soul of the dead lives on after the physical demise, but they are far away in Barzakh and have no means for communication. Can they really hear us? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa bihi nasta'een innahu khayrun nasirin wa mu'een. Certain group of Muslims believe that the dead cannot hear us, even though they have a spiritual life, because the connection to the physical world is severed as they no longer have a physical body. Well, it seems impossible to accept the connection of the dead with this world, just like the idea of speaking with somebody who is thousands of kilometers away seemed impossible a few decades ago. Nowadays, we're a few touches away from speaking with somebody who lives in another continent. This very video clip is just another example. No one could ever imagine it 15 to 20 years ago that they will be able to speak or share a video clip that the people from all around the world would be able to watch it. So the idea of Sima al-Mauta, maybe it's unlikely now, but it's not logically impossible. And the experiencers are also a good example. Most of them were in a unique state of living in which they could see things or hear voices while they were near death in a deep comatose. With this introduction in mind, let's go to Islamic sources to see if we can find any evidence proving Sama al-Mauta, starting with the Noble Quran. In the story of Prophet Saleh, when the divine punishment fell upon his people and they all perished, he addressed them and said what happened to them was because they weren't obedient to the Lord's message. The context of the ayah clearly indicates that the Prophet spoke with them after their death. The exact same thing is also narrated about Prophet Shu'aib and his people, as he also addressed them after they fell victim to their own arrogance. In Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam addressed the noble Prophet and asked him for intercession after he put his noble body in the grave. So the infallible Imam is addressing the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam after his death, a clear sign for the idea of Sima al-Mauta. In another hadith, Shaykh al-Saduq narrates in Man La Yahdhuru al-Faqih that after the Battle of Badr, Rasulullah addressed the dead of the polytheist, referring to ayah 44 of Surah Al-A'raf, and said, I have certainly found my Lord's promise to be true. Have you too found your Lord's promise to be true? At this point, the hypocrites start to mock Rasulullah that he was talking to the dead. Rasulullah looked at them and said, if they were allowed to speak, they would certainly approve what I said. Interestingly, the hadith is also narrated in the Sunni sources, and it is more famous for them. Al-Bukhari narrates this hadith with a small difference, that the person who asked the question from Rasulullah is Umar the second caliph, but he received the same answer. In another hadith, Shaykh al-Mufid narrates a similar event for Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in two of his books, Al-Jamal and Al-Irshad. He narrates that Amir al-Mu'mineen was walking among the dead of the enemy after the Battle of Jamal and addressed them in a similar manner that Rasulullah addressed the polytheist after the Battle of Badr. In one case, Amir al-Mu'mineen ordered Talha's lifeless body to be set up and asked him whether he acknowledged the Lord's promise to be true. Some people asked the same question from Amir al-Mu'mineen that was asked to Rasulullah. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, by Allah, they can hear my voice just like the dead of Badr. If they were allowed to speak, you'd be surprised. One of the recommended acts during the burial is to perform talqeen for the dead. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam instructed the closest people to the deceased to perform talqeen for him. And it is to get your mouth close to the head of the deceased and say shahadatain and some unique wordings for them. And the benefit of this talqeen is to sort out the questioning of Nakir and Munkar. There is also a famous hadith among the Sunnit which is called Qar'un Ni'al. According to this hadith, when the deceased is put in the grave and covered with dirt, he could hear people's shoes who are walking away from him. Considering all these evidence from Quran and Sunnah, we can say that the idea of Sama' al-Mawta is well recognized among Shiites and Sunnites. One last issue remains though, and it is that Sama' al-Mawta is not shirk, because it's far away from the idea of a Sami' or al-hearing, that is the feature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that Sama' al-Mawta is possible because of Allah's permission to the dead. In other words, they are able to hear and communicate with the living if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows them. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.